Art & Fly is a company that sells art and craft supplies. They pride themselves on being affordable and high quality. And today we're going to test them out. So Art & Fly sent me a pack of their 2-tip brush pens, a pack of their fine liners in both black and sepia, a word to this day I still do not know how to correctly pronounce. They also sent a pack of the gray tone set and the skin tone set and the 48 pack of their dual tip sketch markers. I'm going to do a little in-depth review of each of these products, so let's get started. If you haven't already guessed, their dual tip markers have 2 tips. Like, wow, yeah, mind blown, right? One tip is a fine point in 0.4 millimeter, and the other side is a brush tip that's soft and flexible. Which side is which is actually marked on the barrel with little diagrams and text, but you can also figure out which is which from a distance because the fine tip actually has a little black ring between the cap and the barrel. The packaging really wasn't anything to write home about, like it's kind of blah, especially when you're comparing them to like Staedtlers that have those really awesome case that like flips open. Yeah, it's just cool. But these markers or pens, I don't know what you want to call them, they actually were really, really cool, and I wasn't thinking much of them when I received them, but I've been using them for a lot of different things. Bullet journaling, they are amazing. They don't bleed through. Very thin paper. Like you can sort of see them from the other side, but it's not bleeding through, which I consider a win. And you can do that with both the fine point and the brush tip. You can also use it, I've used it for adding like accents or simple colors to little sketches in my sketchbook. And again, it doesn't bleed through, so you're able to add color to your sketchbook without having to worry about ruining the other side of the page, which is plus, 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 plus. I prefer these fine tips over the Staedtler ones a little bit just because they're a 0.4 millimeter, and I'm pretty sure Staedtler's 0.3 millimeter, and I just like a thicker line, so I'm gonna pick these over them. They come in 12 different colors, and all of them are actually pretty vibrant, even yellow, which is surprising. Sometimes yellows kind of suck, but these are good. The only color I didn't use was gray. I just don't have a use for that one. I've had these markers for about 4 months, and I've used them on and off, and I haven't had any problems. I think currently they're going for $9.99 for the 12 pack, which isn't the cheapest price out there, but I really don't have any complaints about them. They work really, really well, and they're just a nice, consistent pen. All in all, I'd rate them really good out of 5 stars. Now, the fine liners are something I was very excited to try because I've been using Sakura Pigma microns for an eternity, and they've just never really lived up to my expectations. Even though everybody uses them, mine always broke or just stopped working and ran out of ink way too fast. And I've been looking for an alternative for about just as long, so I was very excited to try these. One thing I noticed is there's a bit of a mistake on the packaging with these. They say that they have 0.05 millimeter, 0.1 millimeter, 0.2 millimeter, 0.3 millimeter, 0.5 millimeter, and 0.8 millimeter, but that's not true. Those sizes actually correspond to the Sakura micron sizes, 0, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 8, or 5 and 8, yeah. But if you've ever looked at a micron, you'll know those aren't the actual sizes. Like the 005 is actually a 0.2 millimeter, the number 1 is a 0.25 millimeter. So those don't correspond with the exact sizes. But on these they say they do, but they line up exactly with my microns, so I don't think that's correct. And that goes for the sepia ones as well. Usually the best test for a fine liner is testing if it bleeds when you add like an alcohol-based marker or any other kind of marker you want to use. These did not bleed, so yay! I tested them with an alcohol-based marker, and then as well as the brush pens from the last little item that I just reviewed. So they worked really, really well, didn't bleed. Mine all still work, none of the ink's gone out. These are currently going for $9.99, I believe, on Amazon, and Sakura. They usually range between $10 and $15 from what I've seen. If you wait for a deal, you can get them cheaper, but currently these are cheaper than the microns, so that's a win. One thing I do want to mention is the aesthetic factor. I've always thought Sakura microns were kind of ugly, but these black fine liners are beautiful. I really like the silver barrel and lid. The sepia ones, they're about equal in the ugly factor to a micron, I think. I don't like the black ink on browns. I don't know, it's just not my thing. I really like the silver though. All in all, I really liked them. I'm going to definitely use them until they don't work anymore, and I'm going to rate them, I haven't broken any of the tips off yet, out of 10 stars, yeah. And lastly, I'm very excited to talk about their sketch markers, which are alcohol-based markers with 2 tips. The one side is a chisel tip, and the other side is, wait for it, a brush tip. Yay! So if you don't know what a brush tip is, it's very, very flexible, so you get a lot more control over your lines. And usually when you're looking at cheap alternatives to Copic markers, they have like a bullet nib, which it's just a fine point. You can't get very much variation out of that, so you have to flip between the bullet nib and the chisel nib a lot more often than with a brush tip, which you can get a thin line, a wide line, however you want to say it, with the same tip. So those are usually very hard to find for a cheap price, but here they are right on there. Isn't that pretty awesome? The barrel of these markers is white. I like that because my master markers are black, and I think they're just, I don't know, don't really care for it. I like light colored stuff. I feel like that's becoming more obvious. I like that there's like that silver detailing on the caps. There's the color of each, that while it corresponds to the ink inside of each marker on both caps, and then on the tip of each cap it has both the pigment number, and instead of like a name for the color, it has the name of the color family represented with letters. So like if it has a B, that means it's in the blue family. It's nice that the marker isn't super round, so it's not going to roll away from you. And the cap, if you take it off, it actually fits on the other end. If you line it up correctly, you can get it to stay, and it doesn't fall off too easily, so I'm going to consider that a win. It's not the best, but for me, if a marker's cap doesn't fit on the other end, I'm going to lose the cap, and it's going to drive me nuts. So that's just something that's important to me, and I'm very excited that you can do that with these. You just have to make sure that the shape is lined up because it has such a unique, I don't know, what is that? Is that an octagon? Yeah, 8 sides, it's an octagon. So you have to make sure the octagon's lined up, and then the cap will fit. So it's pretty cool. I'm very happy about that one. So I mentioned earlier that they sent me the skin tone set and the gray tone set, as well as their 48 pack. So the 48 pack is like their main set that has most of their colors, and then I think they recently came out with the skin tone and the gray tone, but the 48 set has a lot of greens. There's like one real purple and then a bunch of like pinky purples, but they're pretty cool. And it's very important to make a color key swatch piece of paper thingy whenever you buy markers, because these markers do fall victim to the fact that the tips or the printed color on the actual marker doesn't really line up with the color that you'll get when you draw it on a piece of paper. So it's just very important. Make your swatches and number them so that you know and you can reference them in the future. So I like to do that. That's what I'm doing right now. You'll see I'm adding all the colors. The ones that I add a little star to are actually from the extended sets, so like the gray and the skin tone, so you can have a better look at what the colors are. I separated them by color family. I'm still trying to figure out how to organize my swatches. Sometimes I'll do it by number just because it's easier, and then I'll organize my markers by number because then you can just, you know, numerical order is just easy for me. So I'll do that, but this time I decided to organize it by color family, so it makes it a little bit more rainbowy, which is kind of cool. There's still some that are a little bit off. I did it by eye, so that's why the numbers don't correspond, but I think this works. I'll still probably organize my markers by number, but use this swatch key thing, look at it, see the number, and then I'll be able to find the marker really, really easy. So yeah, that's a little tip. The box these markers came in, again, Art and Fly's biggest problem, I think, is just packaging. It's not really anything you want to hold on to for a while. It's all kind of ugly, but I guess you have to have a trade-off when you're getting some decent prices. So I'm probably not going to hold on to that. It's probably a good idea to invest in something else to hold these markers in. I do like that the markers are short. My master markers, which were my other cheap brush markers, they're really long and they're just kind of hard to put anywhere. So I like that these are a more standard size. They're the same size as my Winsor and Newton and my, what's this one? Spectrum Noir. As for smell, these markers aren't that stinky. I mean, if you're sticking your face in your paper, you're gonna get some fumes, but personally, the worst markers I've ever smelled so far were Spectrum Noir, and these are not that bad. But I guess you're probably wondering, are these markers a good deal? They're $80 for 48, which comes out to about $1.66 a marker. If you compare them to like the industry standard of Copic markers, which are over $5 a marker, you're getting a good deal. If you compare them to the master markers, you're not getting quite as good a deal, but I do prefer these over the master markers. But if you want to have a lot more markers because they have a larger selection, I'll have a link to my review of master markers. Again, if you're looking for cheap markers, you're going to have to forego the brush tip, and I would recommend Ohuhu because I still really like those markers. These compare to Ohuhu very well, except they're a little bit more expensive, but again, you're getting the brush tip, which I think is really important. I really like the brush tip, but again, it depends on the person. So yeah, and then also if you want to get the skin tone set, you're going to be paying a little bit more per marker. That's what I need to say. I always get this question on any of my marker reviews. People are like, do they sell refills? Which the answer is almost always, actually it has always been, no, because these are cheap markers. They don't sell refills. But today I get to say something else. Today I get to say that Art & Fly does sell refills, which is really cool. I think for $8 you get a refill for whatever color you use the most. I mean, because I assume that's the one you're going to buy, and you can refill that marker 13 times for $8, which comes out to about 50 cents a refill, which is a very good deal. So if there's a marker that you use a lot of, you can buy a refill, which is always something important to look into when you're buying markers. So for that reason, I find the investment into Art & Fly at $1.66 a marker to be very good, especially since you can buy those refills. So yeah, I'm getting a little out of breath because I'm kind of excited. I've never owned a marker that you can buy a refill for. They didn't send me any refills, but I might have to ask them about that. Maybe I'll buy some. Not sure if I said this, but they told me that they are still working on more colors, so they are expanding their color library, which is exciting. And it's kind of a slow process, which is good for my wallet. So, yay. And don't mind this drawing. She has pink skin. It's fine. I was trying to follow this color scheme on Pinterest because it looked beautiful. And I was like, how do I use this to draw a person? Because obviously they didn't draw a person when they used this color scheme. So it kind of looks a little weird, but it also looks very cohesive in a color thematic way. So I don't hate it, but it looks a little weird. So I was trying to be artsy. Leave me alone. It's fine. Shh. Anyway, those are the Art & Fly supplies that I have tested out. I really liked each of them in their own way. Again, the packaging is just really where Art & Fly kind of loses me. I like the quality, I like the colors, I like the pigment of everything that I've tried, but the packaging is really nothing I want to save. Usually I save packaging that my art comes in because it's just so beautiful, whereas this one, they're just packaging, you know, whatever, throw it away kind of thing. I want to thank Art & Fly for sending me these supplies to review, and I'm really excited to see what other colors you come out with in the future, because I really liked your markers. Anyway, thank you all for watching. If you're interested, I'll definitely have links to all the different art supplies in the description, as well as some of the ones that I mentioned that I was comparing them to, so you can check out both of those thingies. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys all next week, and I hope you have a delicious evening full of waffles. Bye.